Good morning, Virgo. Wait, don't scroll. Not yet. Because what I'm about to say, it's not what you think it is. It's not gossip. It's not noise. It's not the kind of rumor that travels through mouths looking for drama. This one, this one has been traveling toward you. And the reason it's going to make you cry is not because it hurts. It's because some part of you already knows it's true. Stay with me here. Because there's something circulating right now in the spaces around your life, in the quiet conversations you're not part of, in the way people look at you when they think you're not paying attention. And it is not what you've been telling yourself about who you are. It is something much bigger than that, something you haven't been willing to claim yet. Does that land somewhere in you? Drop a comment if you felt something shift just now, because I want to start here in this specific place before we go anywhere else. You have been operating under a version of yourself that is smaller than what is actually visible to the people around you. And I don't mean that lightly. I mean that there is a gap, a real and measurable gap between how you see yourself on your quietest, most doubtful days and what other people are actually noticing, what they're talking about, what they're not telling you directly because they assume you already know, but you don't know. Or maybe, and you've been afraid to let yourself fully believe it because believing it would mean something would have to change. It would mean you'd have to stop hiding. It would mean you'd have to start taking up space that's already yours. That's the rumor. Not something someone said to damage you. Something someone said because they couldn't hold it in anymore. Now let me slow down here because I want you to feel the texture of what I'm describing, not just the surface of it. There is a version of you that exists in other people's perception that you have been unconsciously protecting yourself from seeing. And the protection made sense. At some point in your life, it was dangerous to be seen too clearly. It was risky to stand out too sharply. There were people, environments, moments where being extraordinary was not safe, where being gifted made you a target, where being magnetic made you someone else's inconvenience. So you learn to dim it, not completely, not permanently, but enough to survive certain rooms, enough to keep certain people comfortable, enough to avoid a kind of attention that once felt more threatening than welcoming. And you got so good at it that somewhere along the way, you started to believe the dimmed version was the real one. Can you feel that? That specific ache of having forgotten something about yourself? Let me know in the comments if this is resonating, because here's where it gets precise. The rumor that's circulating about you right now, it isn't traveling through enemy territory. It's moving through the mouths of people who admire you, people who have watched you navigate something difficult and thought, how is she still standing? How is he still moving? How is this person still choosing softness after everything that tried to harden them? People who have seen you in your most ordinary moments, doing ordinary things, and felt something extraordinary leak through. People who have been in your presence and left feeling different, more alive somehow, more aware of what's possible. And they're talking about it, maybe not in big dramatic declarations, maybe just in small, quiet, honest moments when someone says, there's something about that person. I don't know how to explain it, but there is something about them. When is the last time you let yourself believe that you have that kind of effect on people? Comment below, because I think it's been a while. Now I want to talk about the crying, because the title says you will cry with this, and I don't use that lightly. The tears that are probably sitting right behind your eyes right now, or the ones that might come later when you're alone and this has had time to settle. They're not sad tears. They're the tears of recognition. They're what happens when something true finally reaches you after a long journey through denial. They're what your body does when it's been holding a version of reality that was too small for too long and something cracks it open. This kind of crying, it's not the crying that comes from pain, it's the crying that comes from, oh, oh. So it was real, so I wasn't imagining it. So it was always there, and I just couldn't let myself see it. That's what this is. That's the release that's building right now. Not because your life is falling apart, because something in you is finally being seen, and the seeing is more than you were prepared for. Have you experienced that kind of cry before? The one that feels like relief more than grief? Tell me in the comments. Let me go deeper now, because there's a specific texture to what's happening in your energetic field right now. And I want to try to put language around something that is mostly felt rather than thought. There is a recalibration happening. Not a dramatic one, not a lightning bolt from the sky kind of shift, but a slow, cellular, almost geological kind of movement, like tectonic plates. You don't feel them moving until suddenly the landscape looks completely different. And what's moving in you right now is your relationship to your own value, the way you assess yourself, the criteria you've been using to determine whether you're enough, whether you're doing enough, whether you matter enough, whether your presence in a room, in a life, in a moment is actually worth something. And here's the probability I want to sit with you in those criteria. They were given to you. They weren't originally yours. Somebody, somewhere, handed you a measuring stick that was never designed to measure you accurately, and you've been carrying it so long it feels like your own hand. But what if the rumor, the thing circulating in the spaces around you, the thing people are saying when you're not listening, what if that's the real measurement, not the one you were given, the one that emerges naturally from the people who experience you? Does that shift something? Let me know in the comments if you can feel that distinction. Now, there's something else I need to name, because I don't want to just describe the beautiful parts of this and leave out the harder truth underneath. The reason you haven't been able to see yourself clearly isn't just fear, it's grief. There's a grief underneath this that doesn't always have a name. A grief for the version of you that got seen too harshly, too early, that was assessed by people who didn't have the capacity to accurately perceive you, that was measured by standards that were never going to honor what you actually were, and that grief dotted created a kind of scar tissue over your self-perception. a protective layer that says, don't trust the good things people say about you. Don't let yourself believe it when someone admires you. Don't reach for the version of yourself that feels too big, too much, too exposed. Because the last time you let yourself be seen, it didn't go the way you needed it to go. I'm sitting with that for a moment. Are you? Because this is important. The rumor about you, the positive one, the one that's traveling toward you right now, it's probably running directly into that scar tissue. And part of you wants to deflect it, dismiss it, find the reason it can't be true. Does that feel accurate? Comment below if you're recognizing that pattern in yourself. Because here's what I want to offer you. Not a promise, not a guarantee, just a question worth sitting with. What if the deflection is the last defense of a version of yourself that no longer needs defending? What if the scar tissue has done its job and now it's just getting in the way? What if the moment you're in right now, this specific moment of hearing something true about yourself that you've been protecting yourself from, is the moment where the old protection becomes the new limitation? There's a probability here, a real and significant probability that the next version of you, the one that's trying to emerge, the one that people around you are already seeing even when you can't, requires you to receive something. You've been reflexively returning unopened your own greatness, not in an arrogant, performed way, in a quiet, settled, I know what I carry kind of way, the kind of greatness that doesn't need to announce itself because it's already been noticed, it's already being talked about, it's already the rumor. Can you feel the probability of that being true for you? Sit with it. Don't rush past it. Let me know in the comments what comes up when you really let that land. Now I want to talk about the people in your life, the ones who have been watching you, because I think there's something specific happening in your relationships right now that connects to everything I've been describing. There are people in your orbit, maybe close, maybe at the edges, who have been carrying something about you that you haven't given them permission to say directly. Not because they don't want to say it, but because the energy you've been moving in hasn't always created space for that kind of directness. When you move through the world in a state of quiet self-doubt, even when it's hidden, even when it's subtle, it sends a signal. And that signal says, I'm not ready to receive what you actually think of me. So people hold it. They talk around it. They carry the admiration quietly, the recognition privately, the observation that you are something rare without being able to hand it to you directly. But something is shifting in that. Something in the field is opening. There's a probability that one or more of these people, in the time that feels relevant right now, finds a way to say the thing they've been holding, in a conversation that surprises you, in a message you weren't expecting, in a moment so ordinary it almost sneaks past you before you realize what was just offered. Are you prepared to receive that without immediately dismissing it? That's the real question. Comment below if you're working on your capacity to receive. Let me talk about what this actually asks of you, because I don't want to just describe what's happening and leave you passive in it. This moment, this specific intersection you're standing in right now, it's asking you to practice something unfamiliar, not confidence, not performance, not the kind of self-belief that requires you to feel certain before you can act. It's asking you to practice provisional trust, the willingness to say, I don't fully believe this about myself yet, but I'm going to act as if it might be true. I'm going to stop automatically removing myself from the rooms where my presence matters. I'm going to stop preemptively shrinking before anyone even asks me to. I'm going to let the rumor reach me. And instead of immediately fact-checking it against my worst self-assessment, I'm going to sit with the possibility that the people who see me clearly might be seeing something real. That's the practice. Not dramatic, not loud, just staying open a moment longer than you usually do. Receiving a breath longer than feels comfortable. Letting something good land instead of reflexively tossing it back. Can you commit to practicing that, even just for the next few days? Let me know in the comments. Because I want to address something that might be coming up for you right now. A voice that says, this is too good. This can't be for me. I know what I've done. I know where I've failed. I know the places where I've been less than what I wanted to be. And I hear that voice. I'm not going to dismiss it, because that voice is trying to protect you too. It's trying to keep you from what it perceives as the danger of hope, of belief, of letting yourself stand in something that might be taken away. But here's what I want to gently offer back to that voice. The rumor isn't about your perfection. It's not about having done everything right. It's not about being without flaw or failure or the specific human messiness that every single person who has ever been extraordinary has also carried. The rumor is about something underneath all of that, something that your failures haven't erased, something that your worst moments haven't canceled, something that is simply the quality of what you are. And that doesn't get revoked by imperfection. It doesn't expire when you make mistakes. It doesn't disappear when life gets hard and you respond imperfectly. It's just there. It was always there. And the people who can see it, they're not seeing past your humanity. They're seeing through it to something that runs deeper. Does that feel like something you needed to hear? Tell me in the comments. I want to spend some time now in the specific texture of what I'm sensing around your energy in this period, because there is something distinct happening, something I want to try to put words around. Even though words are always a little inadequate for this, there's a quality of arrival, not the loud fanfare kind of arrival, the quiet kind, the kind that happens when something that has been becoming for a long time finally becomes, when the caterpillar thing stops being metaphor and starts being cellular reality. Something in you has been in process, a long process, longer than felt reasonable, longer than you thought you could sustain. There were moments in that process where you genuinely didn't know if you were growing or just suffering, where the discomfort felt indistinguishable from destruction, where you couldn't tell if you were being shaped or just broken. And you kept going anyway, not because you were certain, but because something in you, some small stubborn flame, refused to go all the way out. And that flame, that is what people are sensing when they're around you. That is what they're talking about when they say there's something about that person. It's not your accomplishments. It's not your appearance. It's not what you've built or achieved or performed. It's the quality of someone who has been through a real fire and is still lit. That's rare. That's what the rumor is about. Have you been able to see your own fire lately, or has the exhaustion of carrying it made it hard to feel? Comment below, because here's the last thing I want to leave you with. And I want to say it slowly, because I mean every word of it. The tears that might come from this, the recognition that might crack something open, the moment where you finally let yourself be seen, even if only by yourself, that is not the beginning of something fragile. That is the beginning of something solid, because the version of you that emerges when you stop protecting yourself from your own light is not a naive version. It's not an arrogant version. It's not a version that needs external validation to stay standing. It's a version that has been tested, that has been through enough to know what it's made of, that has earned, through real experience, a quiet and unshakable knowledge of its own worth. And that version of you is already here, already present, already being sensed by the people around you. The only thing standing between you and living fully in it is your willingness to stop arguing against it, to stop being the loudest voice in the room against yourself, to let the rumor reach you, to let it land, to let the cry come if it needs to come, and then to stand up in the aftermath of that release, a little more willing to take up space, a little more settled in what you actually are, a little less afraid of being seen, because you were always worth seeing. The rumor was never wrong. You just weren't ready to believe it yet. And maybe, just maybe, you are now. Breathe. Stay with this. Let whatever needs to move through you move. You don't have to figure anything out right now. You don't have to perform anything. You don't have to be anything other than exactly what you already are, which, as it turns out, is more than enough. It always was. I don't sell futures. I build architects. No predictions, just the raw truth for the tough ones. Stay magic. Stay in the now.